The day my boss stole my app idea, the office smelled like burnt coffee and panic. It was Thursday, demo day, and the conference room was packed with our department heads, all pretending to be relaxed behind their laptops. I remember the hum of the projector, the faint buzz of the air conditioner, and how my name was missing from the opening slide. I'm Alex, and I spent months building this app from scratch, every line of code my own. And yet, there it was on the screen, under his name. Asterisk, the app that I had spent 9 months building, line by line, appeared on screen under someone else's name. His name, he stood there smiling, laser pointer in hand, talking like every late night and every fix was his idea. I sat at the back, my hands cold against the table, watching my code play across the screen while he took credit for every part of it. You know that feeling when your chest goes hollow? It's like your body knows something unfair is happening, but your brain can't process it yet. That was me, half numb, half burning up from the inside. I joined that company 2 years ago, full of naive excitement. Fresh degree, shiny resume, and a dream to build something that mattered. We were a mid-sized software firm, small enough that everyone knew everyone, but big enough that titles mattered. My boss, Ethan, was one of those people who always looked like he was in control. Pressed shirts, perfect hair. It's a kind of smile that made you question whether it was genuine or just good practice. When I was assigned to his team, I actually thought it was a win. He had experience, reputation, and connections. And at first, he seemed to support me. He'd ask questions about my projects, give feedback, even defend me in meetings. So when I told him about the idea for my app, a smart productivity tool that could predict bottlenecks in a project before they happened, he seemed genuinely excited. He said, "That's brilliant. Let's work on it together. I'll help you pitch it to management." And that's where I made my first mistake. I believed him. The company had a culture where innovation was rewarded. They even had an internal system for pitching new product ideas. If your concept got approved, you could lead development and even get a bonus or promotion when it succeeded. For me, that was everything. This app wasn't just an idea. It was the culmination of every sleepless night I'd spent teaching myself to code better, every bug I'd fixed, every time I'd chosen to stay late when everyone else went home. I spent weekends building the prototype. The algorithm was my pride. It could detect workflow slowdowns using data patterns in real time. Ethan would occasionally drop by, ask how it was going, and I'd show him small demos. He'd nod, impressed, and say things like, "This could put us on the map." Looking back, I should have noticed the signs. He never contributed to the code base, always too busy, but he'd ask for copies of progress reports. He said upper management liked having summaries. He'd tell me not to share updates in team channels, claiming it would spoil the surprise. And I believed every word, because at the time, I wanted to trust that someone in power could also have integrity. Then came that Thursday. Our division head had scheduled to showcase a lineup of upcoming tools and innovations. I was excited, nervous, and proud. My app was finally stable enough to show, but Ethan told me I didn't need to present. He'd handle it. He said, "You've done the heavy lifting. Let me take care of the formalities." So I let him. And that's how I ended up in that cold, buzzing conference room, watching him present my work as his own. He didn't even flinch, didn't even glance my way. He took the compliments, the nods, the praise, and smiled through all of it. When the applause hit, it felt like someone had unplugged the air from my lungs. I wanted to stand up and shout, to tell everyone the truth, but I couldn't move. I just sat there, staring at the glowing logo I had designed on the slide. After the meeting, people came up to him, congratulating him. A few of my coworkers gave me those awkward looks, the kind that say, "We know something's off, but we're not getting involved." And Ethan? He just patted my shoulder and whispered, "Team effort, right?" That's when I realized something important. Some people don't steal because they need what you have. They steal because they can, because they think you'll never fight back. That night, I didn't go home. Stayed in the office, long after everyone else had left. The glow from my monitor was the only light in the room. Every file, every commit, every log, it was all there, proof that I was the creator. And as I scrolled through the timestamps, through months of code commits under my username, something inside me clicked. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to confront him in a hallway. If he wanted credit for my creation, he could keep it and watch what came next. I closed my laptop and leaned back in my chair, listening to the faint hum of the server room next door. I knew then this wasn't over. Not yet. The next day, the company email buzzed with congratulations. Ethan had already pitched his app to the execs. They were talking about pilot testing it with a few clients. He'd even mentioned his team in the memo. My name was buried halfway down the list. I kept my cool. I congratulated him in the group chat. He replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Inside, though, I was studying. Watching how he moved, how he handled questions, how he talked about features he didn't even understand. He was confident, too confident. And that overconfidence would become the seed of his undoing, because I knew that app better than anyone. I knew its logic, its dependencies, its strengths, and its weak points. And I knew that somewhere down the line he would need me again to fix something, to debug, to make it shine. And when that day came, I'd be ready. The days after the demo were brutal. Every time I walked past Ethan's office, he'd be there, basking in the praise. He didn't hide it anymore. People laughed at his jokes, congratulated him on leading the project, and asked him questions about features only I had implemented. I kept my face neutral. I said nothing. Inside, though, I was a storm. Anger, frustration, disbelief, all mixed into a sharp, burning focus. I tried talking to my mentor at the company, someone I trusted. "Did you see the demo?" I asked cautiously. He took all the credit. My mentor leaned back, sighing. I saw, honestly, it's a gray area. You built the prototype. He presented it. Happens all the time in corporate. I clenched my jaw. That was not a gray area. That was theft. Pure and simple, but yelling or complaining wouldn't help. If I wanted real satisfaction, I needed leverage. I needed to plan something smarter than confrontation. Something that would expose the truth and let the work speak for itself. I started by revisiting the codebase, line by line. Every module, every commit, every test I had written, I reminded myself what made this app special: its predictive algorithms, its arrow-checking protocols, its seamless interface. I remembered every bug I had fixed at 2 a.m., every optimization I had implemented to handle heavy traffic. And then I looked for vulnerabilities, not the kind that would hurt anyone, but weaknesses in the demo setup that he couldn't possibly fix without me. I realized something crucial. The app was fully functional under the conditions I had tested it. But the demo configuration that Ethan had used for upper management? He didn't understand the dependencies. He had already broken a few minor functions in the process of trying to customize it for his slides. He was competent at talking, but when it came to the code, he was playing a dangerous game, so I made a plan. Step 1. Observation. I documented every instance he interacted with the app, noting where he relied on my fixes or ignored critical error messages. I watched how he ran the software on his laptop, noting which sequences caused minor crashes or slowed responses. Step 2. Patience. I couldn't reveal anything too early. It needed to build suspense, so when it happened, it would be undeniable. If I acted impulsively, it might look like jealousy. I needed the moment to appear natural, a consequence of his overconfidence, not my vendetta. Step 3. Subtle preparation. I created alternate branches in the code repository, version controlled, but invisible to him. I wrote detailed notes, mock fixes, and backup procedures. All the while, I made myself indispensable. He still asked me questions. He still needed me to tweak settings. Every time he did, I silently noted exactly how dependent he was on my expertise. Meanwhile, I kept my external demeanor calm. I smiled during meetings. I praised his ideas in front of others. I even sent him helpful tips through Slack, things he would misunderstand or implement incorrectly. It was tedious. It was almost surgical. But every misstep he made, without understanding the logic of the app, would count later. Then came the week of the client showcase, the real test. They had invited executives from a major partner company to trial our new tools. Ethan was scheduled to present. I wasn't invited to speak officially. I watched him practice, carefully noting the lines where he described the app's features inaccurately. He'd memorized jargon, but he couldn't explain the algorithm's reasoning. That's when I realized he was relying entirely on memorization, not understanding. So I've prepared contingency files, not malicious. Just accidentally misplaced variables, timing mismatches, and demo sequences that would only fail if someone unfamiliar with the underlying architecture tried to execute them. I rehearsed the scenario in my mind, Ethan, standing in front of executives, confidently demonstrating his app, the software, behaving unpredictably because of tiny, subtle dependencies only I knew about. He'd try to explain the errors away. He'd panic. I'd be there quietly, professionally, offering the solutions. And then the truth would become obvious. He didn't know the app. I did. It wasn't about humiliation. It wasn't about revenge in a cruel sense. It was about justice. About letting the work speak for itself. About showing the company and him that you can't claim what you haven't earned. Over the next few days, I executed my quiet prep. I updated the documentation he relied on, inserting subtle clarifications he would misinterpret. I tested demo sequences repeatedly, ensuring that only someone with true understanding could run them smoothly. I created backups and redundancies in case he tried to override anything. Every time I saw him overconfidently run a test, I smiled inwardly. He didn't know it yet, but the cracks were forming, and I waited. Patience was key. I could feel the tension building inside me, but I didn't let it show. Every time someone praised him, every time he boasted in meetings, I reminded myself the payoff was coming, because eventually the app would speak for itself, and when it did, it would be undeniable who the real creator was. The day of the client showcase arrived, and the office felt electric. Executives were streaming in, cameras were set up, and Ethan was practically glowing with confidence. He greeted everyone with the polished smile of someone who believed he had already won. I stayed back, pretending to review unrelated code on my laptop. I didn't need to present, I just needed to observe. Every step he took, every mouse click, every line of explanation was a thread leading to the inevitable unraveling. He started the demo. The app launched smoothly at first. The executives leaned in, nodding, impressed by the interface. But then came the sequences he had misunderstood. A predictive calculation failed silently at first, subtle, almost unnoticeable. He tried to move on, brushing it off with a practiced joke. Next, a workflow module that depended on a dependency he didn't fully understand began to behave erratically. Buttons froze, charts didn't load, and the live preview produced garbled results. He frowned, then laughed nervously. Just a minor glitch. Nothing to worry about. I could feel the tension in the room. Executives exchanged uncertain glances. He tried again, reloading the software, clicking through functions like a man desperately flipping switches. The errors multiplied. Calculations that should have been instantaneous took seconds. Predictions were off. The dashboard displayed strange data points. Finally, he turned to me, desperate. "Can you fix this?" he asked, forcing a smile. I walked up slowly, every step deliberate. I didn't need to say much. I opened the logs, ran the tests, and pointed out exactly where the sequence had failed. Dependencies he had overridden. Variables he had ignored. Steps he had skipped. The executives watched in silence. I explained calmly, line by line, how the app functioned, what the errors meant, and how they could be corrected. My tone was neutral, professional, unshaken. And then came the moment I had been waiting for. One of the executives looked at Ethan and said, "I see. So the app works perfectly, but only if someone who understands the code runs it." Ethan stammered. He opened his mouth, tried to explain, but the words didn't come. The applause he expected never arrived. Instead, there was quiet, polite murmuring, the sound of doubt spreading through the room. I watched his smile falter. His confidence, so carefully maintained, cracked in front of everyone. The executives asked questions and he stumbled. I answered. They listened. It was subtle, but the message was clear. The credit for this work did not belong to him. It wasn't humiliation for me. It wasn't about revenge in a petty sense. It was justice. It was truth. After the meeting, I returned to my desk. Ethan didn't say a word to me. The room felt different, lighter, as if some invisible weight had lifted. People who had avoided acknowledging my work before now came by with congratulations. They asked questions, genuinely curious about the app. And for the first time, I felt seen. In the following weeks, things shifted. Ethan tried to regain control, but the narrative had already changed. People knew who had built the app. Management acknowledged my contributions openly. I finally got the promotion I had worked for all along. I learned something important from this. You don't need to fight with anger. You don't need to confront every injustice directly. Sometimes patience, preparation, and intelligence are far more powerful than rage. I also learned to trust my instincts. When someone's words don't align with their actions, it's a warning. Listen to it. Plan carefully. Protect your work. Most importantly, I learned that recognition isn't something you demand, it's something earned through persistence, skill, and integrity. Looking back, I don't feel satisfaction from his failure. I feel satisfaction from my own success. I built something incredible. I proved my worth. And I did it without compromising my principles. That day I realized the best revenge isn't cruelty, it's excellence. And when you let your work speak for itself, it has a way of making the truth unavoidable, because in the end the code doesn't lie. It remembers who built it, who understood it, and who was patient enough to let justice unfold naturally. And that, more than anything, is a kind of victory that no one can ever take away. Asterisk. Thanks for hearing my story. If you want more betrayals, truths, and unexpected payoffs, make sure you subscribe.